Thank you, Chair. I want to connect to your last point about the broader soft diplomacy efforts of other countries such as British consuls and Cervantes and Goethe and so on, and ask if our witnesses could connect the issue of Canadian studies abroad to the broader question of Canadians abroad. It seems to me that the deeper problem is that this country doesn't value our assets overseas. And you may know the latest figures from StatsCan suggest that there are perhaps 5 million Canadian citizens living overseas, which is bigger than most provinces. It seems to me that if we don't have a sort of a national approach to thinking about our citizens abroad as assets and how they contribute to the national purpose, Canadian studies alone are extremely valuable, but that's, in a sense, a very small piece of this much bigger picture. And I wonder, perhaps Mr. Nanos would like to comment on that first, and any of the other witnesses are welcome to chip in as well.
Yeah, and thank you, Senator, for that question. And that's why my remarks were a little broader than just the academic impact. And I think that's how we have to look at the context for this. There's definitely, and I've seen this firsthand just in my enterprise, significant corporate impact, not just from people that have done Canadian studies abroad, but from Canadians who are living abroad in other countries that would be part of those organizations that would say, you know, would want to make those connections and to go into business to help create prosperity. But I think the point that we're trying to make is that if someone told anyone that you could get a $36 multiplier on an investment and it was legal, assuming it was legal, I don't think you would hesitate in making that investment, considering how moderate that investment is compared to all the other things that the Government of Canada puts money behind.
Other comments?
I might add to that I think it's a very worthwhile thing to think about, of mobilizing the Canadian diaspora. Many in the Canadian studies community internationally are themselves Canadian, and this has been a conduit. I actually speak as one of them. I feel at home on this panel because there are other Nova Scotians here, and so Canadian studies internationally has been one of the ways in which Canadian scholars who are working abroad can feel like they're contributing back to their country. And I certainly feel this quite strongly. I will always identify as a Canadian, although I'm a dual national. So I think that's a project that the academic community can play a part in. I don't think we have any special privilege there. I think there are Canadians in every walk of life, certainly in the United States, that are making their mark. But the challenge in the United States for Canadians is that we're not visible in the same way that we would be if we had an accent, or we kind of pass as Americans, and that feeds a real problem, I think, for Canada, and that Americans think that Canada is very much the same as America, and that's a challenge. We have to sort of educate Americans on the fact that Canada is a sovereign state with very distinct values, and provide Americans with an intellectual context to understand when we disagree on issues. The tendency in the United States is for Americans to throw up their hands and say, well, what's wrong? What have we done? They're not with us. So I think it's an important project, and I think Canadian studies internationally could be a significant contributor to that larger objective of mobilizing the diaspora.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Senator.